Okay, so, we always hear about there's huge companies, right? Like the giants in every industry. And we kind of assume, well, they've got it made. They've got the resources, the scale, the reach.
We've got it all.
Like game over for anyone else trying to compete, right?
Right, exactly.
But what if that's not the whole story?
Yeah.
What if sometimes that size and that scale can actually work against them?
Interesting.
Today, we're going to really dig into this idea. How can mid-sized companies not just survive, but actually outmaneuver these big players? And we're going to draw some really cool insights from a recent analysis by Denise over at C3 Centricity.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting about Denise's perspective is, she's coming from years of leadership in Fortune 500 companies.
Right.
So she's seen both sides of this, right?
Exactly.
She's been in those massive organizations, and now she's working with, helping mid-sized companies grow. So she's got a really unique perspective on where those advantages lie.
Absolutely. And for those of you listening, especially if you're in the CPG world, that's consumer packaged goods. The feeling of trying to grow your brand when you've got these massive companies breathing down your neck, right?
Yeah.
So Denise is a global expert. She really helps companies, unlock that growth through insights, innovation. She's really big on inclusive leadership as well, building really strong teams.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to pull out the actionable stuff. Like, how did these companies actually do it? Not just the theory, but the real strategies.
Right.
We'll even peek outside of CPG for a bit, look at some tech examples. Sometimes seeing those different industries can spark some really interesting ideas.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, as a CPG leader, you want growth, right?
Of course.
But you don't necessarily have the millions or billions to throw around that some of these huge companies do.
Right.
So this deep dive, that's what we're calling this, is all about finding those ways to win without needing those colossal resources.
I love that. And it really comes down to, like you said, outsmarting them, right? Not trying to outspend them, because that's a losing battle, but finding those clever ways to, sidestep them almost.
Absolutely. And Denise really hits on this. It's about outthinking the competition, not outspending them. And I love this quote from Daniel Lubetzky, the founder of Kind Snacks. He said, "Success in today's market isn't about outspending the competition. It's about outthinking them." I mean, that really sums it up, right? It's not about brute force. It's about strategy.
Yeah, and finding that strategic advantage, it's not just about having a good idea, right? It's about a completely different way of thinking and a completely different way of operating, right?
100%. So to illustrate this, let's jump over to the tech world for a second. Think about Stripe, right?
Okay.
Back when they started in, 2010?
Yeah, around then.
The online payments world was dominated by some really big, really established players, but Stripe didn't try to copy them. They didn't try to build these huge sales teams or offer every single feature under the sun.
Right.
They went super laser focused. They focused on the experience for developers. The people actually building the websites and apps.
The ones actually making the payments happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They made their technology, their APIs, super easy to integrate. Compared to what was out there, it was a breath of fresh air.
Right. So much simpler.
And it worked. They actually power payments for some of the biggest companies out there. Amazon, Google, Microsoft.
Pretty incredible, right?
And one of the Stripe founders, John Collison, he said something really interesting. He said, "We're building tools that help ambitious companies scale faster. Our success is tied to their success." It wasn't about beating those giants. It was about enabling them in a way that no one else was.
I think what's really key there is, like you said, they understood their target users so well. Right. They knew developers were frustrated with the existing options. The big guys were focused on these big enterprise deals, whining and dining the CEOs.
Right.
And Stripe went straight to the people actually building this stuff.
Yeah.
And by making their lives easier, they unlocked this, massive market that was just waiting to be tapped.
Yeah, and they could move so much faster than those big, slow companies.
Oh, for sure.
They could launch new features, iterate, adapt. That agility was a huge advantage.
Huge. And it really shows you, even with a relatively small team, if you focus on the right problem, you can have an outsized impact.
Totally. Okay, another example from the tech world, Zoom. Think pre-pandemic Zoom, right?
Okay, yeah.
Video conferencing was already a thing. You had Microsoft, Cisco, Google, they all had their platforms.
Right, lots of options.
But Zoom didn't win by having the most bells and whistles.
Right.
They won because they nailed the basics.
They just made it work.
Exactly. The call quality was great. It was easy to use. Anyone could figure it out. And that focus on the user experience, on making it just work seamlessly, that's what made it explode.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good lesson for CPG companies, too.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we get caught up in adding features, making things more complex.
Right, trying to be everything.
Exactly. But sometimes the best thing you can do is just make it really, really good at the core thing it's supposed to do.
100%. Okay, one last tech example, and then we'll dive into CPG. Shopify. They could have tried to take Amazon head-on, build this massive retail empire.
Right. Go toe-to-toe.
But they didn't. They saw a different path, empowering small and medium businesses to thrive online.
So instead of competing, they enabled.
Exactly. They provided the tools, the platform, the ecosystem for these businesses to succeed.
Like building an army.
Right. And they now power over 2 million businesses globally.
It's mind-blowing.
And it shows that sometimes the smartest move is not direct confrontation, but creating a whole different playing field.
Yeah, like changing the rules of the game completely.
Right. Okay, so those are some tech examples. Now let's bring it home to CPG.
Okay, let's do it.
First up, Chobani. I mean, what a story, right?
Incredible story.
So when Hamdi Ulukaya started Chobani, the yogurt aisle was pretty much owned by a few big brands.
Yeah, not a lot of variety.
And they were all pushing this low-fat, artificial ingredient thing.
Right, that was the trend.
But Hamdi, he had a different vision. He believed in real ingredients, in taste, in quality, and he basically created a whole new category, Greek yogurt.
Yeah, he didn't just compete, he innovated.
Exactly. And so many people told him it wouldn't work.
I bet.
Yeah.
You can't take on the big guys, they probably said.
Right. But he had this conviction, this belief in a better product. He understood that people were craving something different, something real.
And he was right.
Oh, he was so right. Chobani went from, like, nowhere to a $1.5 billion business in less than 10 years.
That's incredible.
Captured a huge chunk of the yogurt market and basically shifted the whole category towards Greek yogurt.
That's not just winning, that's changing the game entirely.
It is, and they did it while staying true to their quality, building this really authentic brand story.
And that authenticity, that's something we see again and again with these successful companies.
Right.
Look at Kind Snacks. They came into a snack bar market that was just flooded with options.
Oh, yeah, so many bars.
And their thing was transparency, like radical transparency.
Yeah.
Clear packaging, you could see the ingredients. They were all real recognizable stuff.
Right, no mystery ingredients.
Exactly. And at a time when people were getting more and more wary of processed foods and all those unpronounceable ingredients.
Yeah, people were starting to pay attention.
That transparency was huge. It built trust. It made them stand out. And it turned into a really mission-driven brand.
It wasn't just a snack bar, it was a statement.
Exactly. And that led to a really impressive valuation and eventually an acquisition. It shows that honesty, being straightforward, that could be a massive advantage in a world that's often full of, marketing hype.
For sure. Okay, let's talk about Fever Tree. They're in the beverage mixer category, tonic water, ginger ale, that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
For years, it was pretty much dominated by one big player, and most of the competition was just on price.
The cheapest wins, right?
Exactly. But Fever Tree came along and said, hold on, the quality of the mixer actually really matters.
I think there's a difference in the drink.
Right. They started sourcing amazing ingredients, building relationships with premium spirit brands. They basically elevated the whole category.
So smart.
Instead of fighting on price, they created a whole premium segment.
Like they redefined what a mixer could be.
Exactly. And now they're the market leader for premium mixers in the UK.
Wow.
They found that unmet need, that desire for quality, and they capitalized on it.
Love it.
Last example, Halo Top. Ice cream.
Okay, interesting.
Now, this is a market with some really huge players.
For sure.
But they tapped into this growing trend of people being health conscious, watching their macros.
Yeah, that's huge right now.
And they used social media brilliantly. They were engaging directly with consumers, building excitement, and they were really focused on the nutritional benefits of their ice cream.
So they were riding that trend and using new channels to reach their audience.
Exactly. They didn't have the massive ad budgets of, Unilever or Nestle, but they had agility, they understood their target market, and they knew how to go viral.
Yeah, they worked smarter, not harder.
Right. And they became the #1 selling pint of ice cream, which is pretty incredible.
Amazing. So looking at all these examples from tech to CPG, what are the big takeaways? What can a CPG leader listening to this actually do?
Okay, so first and foremost, focus.
All right.
Don't try to be everything to everyone. Find a specific problem, a specific customer group, and solve that problem better than anyone else.
Be the best at one thing.
Exactly. Do your research, talk to your customers, find those unmet needs, those little gaps that the big companies might be missing.
So important.
Second, be nimble. Embrace new technologies, new channels. Don't be afraid to experiment. Look at what's working in other industries, like those tech examples we talked about.
Yeah, don't be afraid to try new things.
Exactly. Could be a new direct-to-consumer platform. Could be using data to target your marketing better. Could be a whole new way of managing your supply chain.
Be open to those new possibilities.
Third, think about creating a new category.
Oh, interesting.
Chobani, Fever Tree, they didn't just compete, they redefined the game.
They created their own space.
Exactly. Maybe you innovate with ingredients or packaging or even the core benefit your product offers.
Like find a whole new way to think about it.
And then be really clear in communicating that new category to your customers.
Yeah, own that space.
Fourth, authenticity matters.
So true.
Kind Snacks nailed this. Be transparent. Engage with your customers directly. Build a real community around your brand.
It's about building those genuine connections.
It is. People can spot fake a mile away these days.
Oh, yeah.
Be real, be honest, and people will respond to that.
It's powerful.
And finally, never compromise on quality.
So important, especially as you grow.
Especially as you grow. Chobani, they got huge, but their yogurt stayed amazing.
Right. Consistency is key.
Invest in quality control. Build strong relationships with your suppliers. That's non-negotiable.
Absolutely. So as you're listening to this, I want you to think about your own business. What's one area where you could apply one of these principles? Maybe there's a problem you could solve really, really well, or a new technology you could experiment with.
Yeah, think about what's that one thing you could do differently. And remember, a lot of these insights come from Denise at C3 Centricity. She's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the CPG world.
If you want to learn more from her, we highly recommend subscribing to this channel. We do deep dives like this all the time, exploring different aspects of marketing and CPG growth.
And definitely check out c3centricity.com. They've got tons of resources there. And you can even book a free business makeover session with Denise.
It's a great way to get some personalized advice and really tackle those challenges you might be facing.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. Think about your market, the big players in your space. What assumptions are they making? What opportunities are they missing? Maybe there's a whole different way to approach things, a different value proposition, a different customer you could focus on.
Yeah, challenge those assumptions, find those gaps. That's where the real magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.